Thank you everybody for coming to Data Driven Academy. My name is Paul Hickey. I think I know most of you, but some of you I'm meeting today for the first time. Just a brief intro of why we do this. So I've been a digital strategy geek for quite some time now, several years. And just very recently, over the last couple of years, I started to get really excited every time I would talk to individual clients or prospective clients about anything related to content marketing, Facebook ads, Google AdWords, SEO, and especially Google Analytics. And what I found was that there was a lot of excitement coming back the other way. People saying, oh, I didn't know that this or that existed. And what I realized is that if our team kind of got together every month or so and had kind of a little mini workshop like this, kind of intimate, like 15 to 20 people, that we could really teach people the skills to pull back the curtain and get a lot of value out of digital marketing instead of paying an agency thousands of dollars every month to manage this stuff for you. Our goal is that at least you could learn a few things to take away to spend your money maybe deploying ads or acquiring customers and gain the knowledge that you would have paid someone else in a services fee. So it's been really good. This is our second section of classes. We did one in the fall where we did, today's class is content creation for SEO and social media. And then we have 3 more classes. Most of you are actually signed up for all 4 classes. Next will be actually taking the content and deploying it into social media ads in the Ads Manager product. So putting a little bit of money behind the content to get it in front of your target audience. Then we have a Google AdWords class and then a Google Analytics class. So we're really excited to have you here. Kate Hickey is our lead instructor for today. She's our content, social media whiz, and SEO, and then I'll step in and support a little bit on the SEO side because I'm the geek along those lines. And Chris Tumajian is a full-time member of our team at Data Driven Design, and then Bailey Robbins in the back. So we're the Data Driven Design team. We'll be here kind of all helping with the workshop today, but Kate's our lead.
Paul's introduced us, and I think most of you are pretty familiar with what we do at Data Driven. These are our learning targets for today. We're going to start with using the data to understand the audience first, because a lot of us think that we know who we're talking to, but when it really comes down to it and you take a look at the analytics, you might be really surprised that 75% of your target audience is female. So you need to pivot in that direction. The algorithm we're going to talk about, as you mentioned, hashtags, differentiating posts. I think this is something that we all have a hard time with because a picture is just kind of what we're used to, but when you change it up, you get a lot more engagement when you differentiate. So we're going to talk to you and give you some really good resources. Don't feel like you have to jot everything down. We're going to give you this whole presentation and deck afterwards. Creating effective content with resources, building an editorial content calendar, having a plan, really, instead of just kind of, winging it every day. Boosted posts. We're going to get in a little next class about ads. Boosted posts is as far as we'll get today, but next class we're going to talk about the ads and the ads manager and like all of those target audiences, setting the right goals. All of that stuff is really important for tracking and ROI. And then local SEO. This is just, I think the world is changing, obviously. We're not watching TV because we're watching our phone. TV might be on in the background, but we're on our phone. We're driving and we're unfortunately on our phone. A lot of the, kind of like the old school marketing ideas are long gone. The cost in this market is just so effective and so low. Facebook has an average monthly user of 1.3 million, and of course signage is where people, it used to just be all the rage, and it's just not there anymore. It's a lot easier to start with Facebook for sure. How many of you have your business manager set up and like ready to go and you're staring at it right now? Anyone?
If you don't have Business Manager, you just Google the Facebook Audience Insights tool.
Facebook Audience Insights tool.
And that's where this data is pulled from. And we can come around and help get you guys set up with anything you need.
I think this is the only time we're going to be in that today, Business Manager. So if you don't have it quite set up yet, don't freak out just quite yet.
Just kind of to give you an overview of it. The point of the Audience Insights tool is it's through Facebook, and it's a really easy way to kind of see who is liking your page on Facebook. 94% of women or 6% of men are following you, and you can kind of break that down and really target your audience. And you can even break it down enough to where you're seeing what their interests are.
Even this one's got relationship status. You can figure out how many people are married and how many people are single. I mean, all this stuff is important. Once you have your audience demographics figured out, you're going to be able to just target them a lot better, a lot smarter. We're going straight into the algorithm. This is the way that it works. It uses what's called EdgeRank, which is the algorithm platform that it comes from. And basically, EdgeRank has said that the more that a user interacts with anything, that's what they're going to be seeing the most of. So you're going to see more of friends' photos, but fewer of their status updates if you're liking all their photos, but ignoring all their status updates. If they're liking all their videos, you're going to be served their videos. If I'm liking promotional stuff, I'm going to be served promotional, and I'm going to be buried in other things. To that point, back in the day when you were liking everything, right? We were liking every page back in the day. Remember these days? Like, you're throwing everybody a like. Oh, Chick-fil-A like. Because you knew you weren't really going to see their content. It wasn't going to bother you. It was no skin off your back to like. So having a lot of followers, this is going to be a little bit of a bummer, but having a lot of followers does not necessarily mean that those people are seeing your content. You have to be frequent in your content posting for those folks to be able to see you. So with that said, making sure that the connection is really strong and you're getting lots of interaction, that's the only way to break through the EdgeRank algorithm, is to have strong connections. And let's just put it in like a baseball terms. First base is a like, second base is a comment, third base is a share. And home plate would be like a combination of those two items would be breaking all the way through. So if Ellen's following me and she hasn't liked any of my stuff in months, I'm gonna just drop off of her feed. So you need to be thinking about that strategically when you want to have content that people read. I like what you said. You said, if I build it, they will come. So you're so right. I mean, yes, you have a fantastic store, but no one is in the door. So how are you going to keep them engaged? If you haven't seen this, it's from Letterman.
After social media, and we will, as special interests, foreign governments, etc., can in fact manipulate that and propagandize.
I was under the impression that Twitter would be the mechanism by which truth was told around the world.
If you are getting all your information off algorithms being sent through a phone, and it is just reinforcing whatever biases you have, which is the pattern that develops. There was an interesting experiment, not a big scientific experiment, but just an experiment that somebody did during the revolution that was taking place in Egypt, in Tahrir Square. Somebody took sort of a liberal, a conservative, and quote moderate, and sent them on a Google search. Egypt, type it in. And for the conservative, it came up, Muslim Brotherhood. And for the liberal, it came up Tahrir Square. And for the moderate, it came up vacation spots on the Nile. But whatever your biases were, that's where you were being sent. And that gets more and more reinforced over time. That's what's happening with these Facebook pages where more and more people are getting their news from. At a certain point, you just live in a bubble. And that's part of why our politics is so polarized right now. I think it is a solvable problem, but I think it's one that we have to spend a lot of time.
It seems like a valuable tool that is turned against us.
Yeah.
I realize that's kind of depressing. Sorry, that's depressing. But it's almost like you're stuck in your high school clique for the rest of your life. Isn't that creepy that you just keep being fed the same? Anyway, hold up. I got a little dark. Okay, abort. Sorry. But my point is that you're going to be served what you interact with. So not only are you going to have to reach out to these folks, but you have to keep them engaged. And while that might sound daunting, you can do it. It's just a matter of frequency and kind of playing your cards right, and we're going to talk exactly about how to do that. Within the algorithm, something to understand is that it's important for you to realize if you have 100 followers on your page, just for a round number, only a third of the people that are following you are going to see your posts. So when we say post 3 times a day, that's very daunting for a lot of folks. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to inundate all of my friends or all of whomever with just obnoxious posts. The reality is only 1/3 of those people are seeing that content. So you don't have to be shy about posting a lot. You also, though, this means you can repurpose. So there's good and bad. The frequency is a huge, huge piece of breaking into that algorithm. So frequency, frequency, frequency. As much as that seems daunting, schedule the posts, and we're going to talk about how to do that. Schedule all the posts, maybe out for like 3 days, and then just leave it be for a little bit. I don't like to say leave it be, because do you leave your Instagram for more than 24 hours? Exactly, right? Like our head will pop up. So my point is that you can't be the company that is like all about their users, and then you schedule all your posts and you walk away from it. That's not working. You need to be engaging with these folks. These are people that are on your team. You've already got them. They're your users. So you can't ignore them. Make sure that you're going back in and checking a lot, at least on your phone, if that's what works for you. So don't be afraid of frequency, and that also means don't be afraid of recycling. So that's good and bad there. Each post, again, is only seen by 1/3 of your followers, so don't be super impressed with people with thousands of followers. We have one account that has like 19,000 followers, and they're like, why do we get 6 likes? I'm like, because your content has been crap, and all you've been asking is for us to sell. Sell, 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 sell. They just keep putting on product, 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 product. I'm gonna unfollow Michael if it's pictures of duct tape every day. I know what duct tape looks like. I don't care that there's a sale on it. What is he gonna offer me that keeps me engaged with his content? So we are now in a society of, why are we here? Why are we on Facebook? Why am I touching anything on my Facebook or on my Instagram? It's because I feel something. Real talk, like that's really what you're there for. So when you're entertained, when you're inspired, when you're sad, you try to play to emotion. Now if I can play to people's emotion with a CPA firm, you can do it. Okay, I'm sorry. And then right now, Bailey and I have a client that is medical carts, like it looks like this. It's for nurses stations. So you've got to be really, really clever on what am I offering you as a user? Because if not, I'm tuned out and I'm definitely not touching anything. We know if you don't touch it, you're not going to see it. Entertain, inform, interact, and that will lead to the sell. Why should you post something that's not directly about your business? People freak out about this. Go ahead, Con. It's entertainment. I'm not on Facebook to buy things. I'm on Facebook to creep on my ex-boyfriends and to like snoop on your life. Like that's why we're on Facebook. And then to screenshot and then send to other people and then help other people snoop on their friends. You need to make sure that that's where your headspace is as the marketer as well. Is in the giving mode and not the sell mode constantly. If you're not adding value, this is what we see. People are leaving and unfollowing your brand because, and think about yourself when you get sick of something. Vineyard Vines, I liked them at some point, and then I just got 50 chicks on a beach in a long sleeve t-shirt, and I was just like, oh, I'm so over it. They could have been a lot smarter about that. Too many promotional messages. This green one is not relevant. They post too much. See, it's not as much as you would think. Got use of jargon or slang. They're too quiet. You haven't seen anything from them for a while, and then they don't reply to me. Which I would venture to guess if I had to, on my personal experience over keeping clients, I would put this higher than this. Let's talk about differentiating posts. Bailey's good at this, so I'll let you take it away.
We use Canva. It's just a website that we can kind of make our own social media posts with. So we try to do a number of different things on social media. So posting blogs, articles, interesting articles that we think that people would find interesting, and infographics, polls, a lot of those things that you can make graphics from through Canva, which we'll show you here in a little bit.
So if you go into the Facebook page and you look at all the choices, they've really expanded their choices. They used to be very few, and now there's a lot more. The photo carousel, unfortunately, it used to be really awesome, and it would go through the photos. It has to link to a URL now, which kind of stinks. Once you kind of use that one, it's kind of dead now. It used to be it would scroll through and it was really neat. Unfortunately, that they took that out. Live video people are so afraid of, and you need to not be afraid of it because everyone is touching live video. That's the data. The ratings are just super, super high. Don't be so afraid of it because people are. How about you find yourself watching a makeup tutorial and you're like, why am I 3 minutes into it? I don't even like you. But that's the point, is that we're watching it because we're just so interested in what it is. It's normalized to you, and I think you guys need to remind yourselves of this too. It is normal to you, what you do. It is not to everybody else. It's interesting, it's unique, it's cool, and people will watch it. The numbers prove it. So I know you're in your own head with this, but get out of your own head. It's cool to see kind of what people are doing. It's just neat. So use it and don't be afraid of it, I promise. If you don't want to use your face, don't. But you'll do better if you do. Because people are following you because they like you. That's just the way it is.
And later on we'll
Or
talk
they don't
about
like you.
we post 3 to 5 times a day, right? So how do you do that? And so the idea of documenting what you're doing and then going through that sort of raw content and being able to put it out there as this is who our business is, this is our story, this is who we are as people, it helps you get the volume and it helps you differentiate. And to Kate's point, that is what people think is interesting. They think that's, the data showing that that's what people think is more interesting than the millions of product images or model images that are out there.
Canva is just canvas without an S. Go down and you can take a look at all these different things that you can do. And guys are adding to these all the time. They just did a Facebook ad one, which works really well with the Facebook ad size. With Canva, I mean, you can take any of these images, slide them over, change them to be however you like. Of course, put cool images in the background. If you want to get a little bit fancier and you don't like the images they have here, we love the stock imagery from Pexels. Pexels is awesome. They have really cool video too, so use Pexels if you're looking for anything that's free, high res, and really good that Canva doesn't have. And I have it in my resources slides. Surprising a customer is something that's fun. I think we're forgetting that Facebook is people behind computers. Back in the day, we had brick and mortar stores and you couldn't go and talk to people and you had to acquire a customer in a whole different way. We need to be thinking about our Facebook followers as human beings on the other side of their phones and computers too, as opposed to just, I have lots of followers. Oh, who are your followers? Do you know them? Like, you need to do a deep dive and figure out who some of them are and appreciate them and you know, go in there and make sure that you're scratching the itch for them and providing them value. Ask them, am I providing you value? Do you like my stuff? Why not? What can I do? Really making them feel like a person, because when it happens to you, you remember it. You share, you like, you tell friends. Remember that these are people and kind of go after the human aspect of them too, because that's why they're on Facebook. Boomerang is really fun. If you don't have that app, you should download it. It's fun. Boomerang is the quick videos that just look like a little cheers. And that's like a lot of people do with cheers. There's lots of different things you can do with that. And you can save those to your phone if you wanted to do 20 of them and then just save them. Time lapse is really fun. And we forget to use that, but that's really fun, especially Jamie, I can picture you like setting up a new part of your store and, you know, do a time lapse. How cool would that at the end? She's got it all set up. It looks really neat. With athletes, I can see that being really sweet looking. I think this is something that you could do on Facebook, right? Go find somebody and say, as simple as, I know who you are, I appreciate you, thank you for following me. Is there anything that you would like to see our company offer you? Prearranged or not, you could surprise. Like, how fun would that be as a surprise on Facebook Live? Now the onus is not on you and it's not your face. Now you're doing this. That's something that you can do when you're stuck a little bit, but also that, you know, $15, $30 is gonna go really, really far for you for social media content, because you should, if you're thinking about it, have 4 or 5 pieces. If you could do me a huge favor, will you write us a review? Okay, so now I'm gonna turn her review into a Canva, a big Canva of like the, you know, like one powerful quote that she says with her name on it. I'm gonna tag her. So now it creates this snowball. But just remember that these are people behind the computer screen, not just numbers that you just have as followers. These are people that chose to actually like you because they were like, God, that's such a cute sweater. Boop. That's something that you just kind of need to remember. Highlight an employee. Again, boring to you, interesting to others. With medical cart people, we're highlighting employees and they're doing really, really well. People like to see the ins and outs of other things and how they make those little machines. GIFs are really cool because they're so visually interesting. Begin with the end in mind if you're going to make a GIF. So I knew that at the end of this whole thing, I wanted it to say, hello, I'm Envoy, the latest in mobile workstations. No one's going to read beyond about 8 words. So if you start with the bottom, copy it 8 times, and then just I went backwards. So this is my 9th frame, okay? And then I went backwards. I took off the word workstations. Oh, sorry, I took off the logo first. Like, seriously, took me maybe 15 minutes. Downloaded the whole thing off of Canva. Go to gifmaker.com. And if you upload it there, boom, That's it. That's all it is. It's super easy, and it looks really, really cool. If you want to talk to people while they consume their entertainment, you need to be their entertainment. And I think if I could give this my whole class one line, that would be it. Infographics are a good way to, these are all stolen from Pinterest. Infographics are great. You can make them, but I don't think you need to. And if you do make them, I suggest them being very, very simple and small with infographics. And again, diversifying your content. If I just know that I'm seeing picture after picture after picture of the same thing or same product, I'm just over it as a user. That diversity will help you engage the customer. Interactions. Remember we talked about like first, second, and third. Interactions is where all of that happens. It's because Facebook is now serving as like our news, entertainment, all that. So don't be shy about a long blog, Valerie. Blog. And be okay with it. Put the whole thing in there and then the link at the bottom, but don't put your link first because people are going to link out of it, and then it might not have got the readership that you wanted. And people are afraid of that for their, they're going to not send traffic to their website, but they will because you'll have a better follower, an engaged follower, as opposed to like having them bounce from your content.
Is it the same for Instagram, like putting a lot of content underneath a picture or not?
Yes,
okay,
exactly. And I think we shy away from that because we're there for just like, oh, short and sweet, but actually people are really excited to read and learn and want to know all about what that picture is about, and they'll read it. It's again with like those Facebook Live videos, we're watching the makeup tutorial, you know what I mean, I'm learning about deodorant or something stupid, and 4 minutes in, I'm like, what am I doing? Again, don't copy and paste your link, make sure that, put that at the bottom, and put all of the long form in there. How great. So who would do this? Or, who would do this? Now people are like, oh my gosh, I remember when my brother did that, my principal did this in 8th grade, blah, blah, blah. So it gives people a reason to interact with you. Throwback Thursday, like what fashion trend are you ashamed? This is something that people will feel like laughing, like tag on people, talking about ugly stuff. It takes, and sometimes you might have to play your own game to get people to start. Tag 5 people and be like, remember those, jorts or whatever silly thing you wore? I did the socks the wrong, like white, red, red, white, like thick, in your kids. Tag an army wife. This would be something that would be a good move for, I think it was for Sean Hager, who was our last academy. Let's talk about hashtags. They were reserved only for Instagram. Instagram, you need to be thinking like a user. What would you be searching? I have cute rustic decor, and cute decor. Be thinking like the user. Don't put things that just are complete non sequiturs, where you're writing things like, love me some Chick-fil-A. That doesn't go with how people are going to find you. I mean, you should be, like travel the world or like girl travelers, but it doesn't make any sense to be like, love you, babe. That's not really, no one's going to be searching that. So just make sure that you're thinking about it, thinking it through. Hashtags on Facebook are getting good traction with a couple hashtags. Instagram, go nuts. Yeah. Go nuts. But Facebook, simmer down. 1 to 3 is going to do it. Anything beyond that, people aren't searching that much on a hashtag on Facebook. Where you put in the thing and it's hard to read and you're giving me all like, at the end. I don't mix it in with all of the
What about when you post something on Instagram and then you simultaneously post that content to Facebook, and you put a ton of hashtags in for whatever you post on Instagram, and then it goes over to Facebook. Yeah. What happens then? I mean, do you guys find that has as good of a reach or no?
Okay. Here's the deal. People like to use like Boost and all the different platforms, Hootsuite, that allow you to post to one thing and then boom, it shoots out to everything else. But if you're gonna do it right, you really have got to go on each platform individually and make individual posts. It's not ideal, it is not necessarily fun, but it's just the right way to do it. Because what you see on Facebook and what you see on Instagram are just two completely different things. So speaking to each of those, you just said it, like it feels good on Instagram, and we wouldn't be retweeting an article that we found about, why events are, having an event coordinator will be such a time saver. We're not going to read that on Instagram. We're just not. We're there for pretty stuff and for the feel good. So the answer would be post to both platforms separately. And Liz, I know that is not the most fun.
Well, and
But
we
you
get
could be
asked.
promoting this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get asked like variations of this question a lot, and the way that I've thought about it recently is, would you as a human being automate your posts to your friends and family and all of that? So in other words, like, would you, Bailey, as a person in your personal account that people are interested in, post something on Facebook that automates to Instagram and Twitter and others? No, right? And so basically,
Sometimes.
For me, I post on Instagram and automate it to Facebook because my family,
Yeah.
like older family, is
Yeah.
just on Facebook and on Instagram.
Same.
But that doesn't apply to my business,
Well,
you know?
I guess,
And what you
okay.
do, you could go in and edit it and just delete the hashtags.
Or I was gonna say, one cheat that I use is I put my hashtags in a comment, and so I put the post, and then put all my hashtags like in the first comment, and then the hashtags gonna go to Facebook.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, so that's just a little cheat if you.
Well, that's a great.
I like that cheat.
Yeah, that's good.
I didn't realize that my tweets were pulling in from Instagram, but then what I found is that if I made my first part of my Instagram post interesting enough that would have made sense to be a tweet, then they actually did okay on Twitter. So I like what Fallon's saying about, like, if you can do it in a way that is automated but makes sense for the platform in some way, like going back and doing something manual that makes sense for the other platform,
Right.
then I think it makes sense.
Right. Yeah, and I think with our demographic, it's a mostly female, older,
Mhm.
like 50 plus. So they're not on Instagram.
Mhm.
But as we look towards the future and we capture new audience, like we want to be on Instagram, obviously. But I think sometimes it does make sense for us to have it tied to
Yeah.
some.
Organize it by blog posts, Facebook posts, all social media. And if you want to get really in depth, sometimes we would try to put in like the full post just ahead of time, so that way we know what we're going to be posting for that week and scheduling it out. So it's just kind of an example of one that we did where we have it scheduled on what kind of post is it going to be, the status of whether or not it's been approved, the blog post, Facebook post. So just kind of having it all in order just really helps with the organization and scheduling out.
And making sure that you're not doing the same kind of post over and over again. You know, like once a week, are we serving up something that is news from another source? Are we doing enough personal stuff? Kind of giving yourselves a look at the whole, on the whole, kind of that omniscient viewpoint, and making sure that it's the right stuff, and we're not just willy-nilly.
And the client really likes to see that a lot of times for us. It's like just having something tangible just really helps let them know what's coming up next.
How many of you blog or plan to blog at some point? Okay, fantastic. The reason why I say that is the first because of Facebook, what we talked about the long form blogging. Also because those are just creating inbound links to you. Inbound links over and over again, so it's really helping your SEO. The other thing going on with blogging, and it's not necessarily easy to come up with unique content around, tape necessarily for you for blogging, but it could be when you're the marketing manager and the IT guy. I mean, that's a neat blog. If you put these on Medium, who has an average of like 30 million followers, like daily users. I mean, something insane. We're gonna talk about it in a second. Those are just creating more inbound links for you for an SEO standpoint, and putting your blog in 2 different places. Medium is free, a lot of users. Now, are you gonna get 50,000 likes? Probably not. But it's like anything else. It's a long game, and you'll build your following, and it's somewhere else to house your information. You didn't just put it in one place, and then it just feels like dead in the water. It didn't serve you as far as the content could go. Even if you write a press release or whatever you do with that. So again, we talk about buffer. I hate to say, but buffer is the sort of cheat answer. It really is. I mean, putting it on one platform and then shooting them all out just doesn't feel as organic as going into the individual platforms. It's harder, but it's more personal. I mean, and it feels as such. It is free though, and if you're in a pinch and you're also running other pieces of your business, that might be the only way you can do it, and that's better than nothing for sure. Again, this is Medium. 30 million monthly visitors, so it's a fantastic place to blog.
Medium is seen as legitimate thought leadership community, so it's a great place for free to go and post content to get more value out of you're putting time and effort into blogging. you should go also post your blog on Medium, or a version of your blog on Medium that also links back to the full version that's on your website. So I would get into the habit of doing that because it's building free quality backlinks from a reputable source with 30 million monthly visitors. So
The recommended blog for SEO purposes is anywhere from like 700 to 900 words. If you can't get to that 700 number, it's not like your SEO is like gonna tank. It's just that's kind of the magic number. And of course, mentioning in the title and the subheadings as much as you can, traveling the world, around the in some of the day, using those, the way people would search you, using those words in your heading and subheading is also gonna help your SEO a lot as well.
How do they approve your, like for Medium, do they have, is there an approval process, or?
No,
how do
you.
they maintain the quality of the?
That's a good question. You can go create a free account and you can start posting right now. You could blog about this event if you wanted to, and you could post it like right during the event. So there's no approval process. There is though a way to sign up. You can sign up for free to be a partner, like a content partner. And then that will be where Medium will come, their staff will come through and review all of your articles and then determine, is your stuff good enough to recommend to other Medium visitors. So it's a two-way, it's very much like a social media app as well, where people will interact with each other. You can like applaud other people's blogs, you follow, different things like that. So.
And people view it as like, oh, you got published on Medium. A lot of people that don't know necessarily kind of what we know as marketers will say, wow, like, look, the blog was published like on a free platform that I wrote.
So you could be like Medium.
It's not, but again, it's creating those inbound links. And go ahead.
Like you could go right now and set up a Stewart Transportation Medium account.
Yeah. Cool.
What happens if you go beyond that sweet spot? Are you putting people to sleep, or it's
No.
more content?
It's just more content. The short end is 700 words. It's kind of like what the meta crawlers will find. But anything above that is just great. And I think too is take one blog and use it on Facebook 4 different ways with 4 different pictures. Cut it up. Make your work really work for you, as opposed to like a one and done. Kind of just suck the marrow out of every piece of that and put it in different ways. Maybe part of it in Instagram, so you can change up the platform. But one blog should be able to last you. 2 blogs a month is great for SEO. Fantastic. That's a blog every 2 weeks. It's not as easy as it sounds, right? As you sit here, you're like, oh, you got it. But it's hard in real life. But maybe the move would be do one but repurpose it in 4 ways. And now you've created all of this, all linking back to the blog. And I want to talk to you about the URL builder in just a second as well for SEO.
So if you're blogging twice a month, think of that, how can I cut that up into as many social media posts as possible? Even if you have a 700 word blog, like that could be 7 Instagram posts over the course of that week.
Yeah.
So think about that too.
Didn't I say that?
Yes, but I think when you say something that's so amazing, I feel
Say it
like
again another way.
I want to repeat you in a different way so that everybody gets it.
Good answer.
Okay, good. Yeah, good save. But he blogs every single day, so don't whine. Because he can do it.
Kate, did you say say how long a blog should be like to be in the sweet spot? I just heard
700.
700.
700 plus, but you can't go over to Valerie's point.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about boosted posts. Now these are going to be different than Facebook ads. Okay, boosted posts are for short term. They are not going to have like a set goal. So if you want link clicks as your goal because you're SEO, then that's not what this is for. Boosted is like the little sister to Facebook ads. Okay, it's the quicker answer, it's the cheaper answer. But if you're smart about it, you can use all of your money really, really wisely and have all the eyes that are on your material really good potential buyer eyes. So, does that make sense to you, the difference between the two? Because it gets a little bit confusing in next week. Boosted post. Facebook has already figured this out, that it's now a pay to play. Before it wasn't, because there were not a lot of marketers on Facebook. It was, remember back in the day, it was just your friends, and then your moms found out, and then your grandparents found out, and then like now, of course, once your grandma knows, then now it's not cool, you get the point. So, it's now a pay to play move. So, behind every unique post, we suggest putting at least $5 behind every unique post. Now this might not be in your budget, you might be able to go over that. Just putting at minimum $5 is going to help the reach a lot. It's also going to help you almost kind of want to say to yourself, like, let me give myself good content. You know, because I'm going to be putting dollar amounts behind this, and it's kind of gonna raise your game in a way too. Gone are the days where marketers were welcome, and now if you are going to be in that crowded space, you're going to have to pay. So just kind of be mindful of that. Boosted posts, you can target your audience all the way down, drilling it all the way down into the craziest demographics. So you can specify age, gender, geolocation, and interests. So I'll kind of give you an example. Oh, sorry. This is the look at, I picked Nashville. I can go up to 50-mile radius of Nashville. That doesn't make a lot of sense if your store is in Arrington. You know, you would want to go drill down to Arrington and maybe toggle out. And you can put any city here. If you know that you're having really good, you know, you've had lots of customers from the Dayton, Ohio area for whatever reason, you know, you can just go there. And you can do multiple places. It doesn't just have to be one, and you'll have different geo bubbles going on in different places. You're looking at your audience selection. And so if you've only got a little bit of base of who Facebook is going to serve that ad to, you're going to be down here in the red. You want to get into the green. Keep adding interests or demographics or making the radius bigger until you get you're into that green mode there. This is another look at some suggestions. So if you start, and I was just being funny, but like underwater basket would be like literally it's a thing. Like that's how crazy you can put. You know, everybody's so different. So if you want to put Nashville entrepreneurs or women in business, I mean, and then if you just keep hitting suggestions, you're going to keep coming up with different, you know, Facebook interest groups and demographics, and just keep clicking on them. Once you've created this audience, and now you've got this is too specific, obviously. If I kept going, I would be, you know, my green marker would be right on point, and I would go ahead and save that audience. We're trying to push this class for realty, like this class exactly for realtors, because this would be for realtors to market for themselves. My point is that I saved my audience for boosting this class and this post, and I have like my Nashville realty audience. So I can go back in there every time without creating something new over and over again. If you want to hit caterers for your custom events, you're going to have your catering audience, and you'll probably have made a different one for each different sector. This is where you guys will actually have your money work for you really well with such a niche market. Going back, remember what Bailey talked about earlier with the audience insights, and make sure that are you aligned? You think in your mind that you know, but go back into the audience insights tool and actually take a look at who is your target audience before you boost. I really would challenge you to do that. You think that you know who you're talking to, but if you go back and look at your page likes and your demographics, you might be a little bit surprised as to who you need to talk to and who you thought you needed to talk to. Take some time on the front end to take a look at that, maybe every 6 months or so. If you're going to spend $50 on a boosted post, which is a lot, you'll get some really great traction. This is what you can do with your $50. In other words, all these $50 worth of eyeballs were really potential customers. I got it down to female coffee lovers. This is for Twice Daily. We were pitching their social campaign between the ages of 18 and 40, who have kids, their kids play sports, who are on their way to sporting events between the hours of 4:20 and 8 p.m. I mean, that's how narrowly you can create your audience. Would you use that audience again? If you're them, yes. And so save your audiences is what I'm telling you to do. And once you've done that effort once, you'll now have a choice in the drop-down menu, all the different ones that you've created before. It's worth the effort because now you know your money is being so well spent. So setting your budget, you can run it for, and this is going to give you a really good idea here, right? So for $20, this is $20 for 700-800 people, but we don't know what the audience set was. Okay, so sometimes for $20, it might be 15,000 people. It depends where your audience setting is. You'll have to play around with that and what looks right for you and what feels right for the ad spend. I would always go with 7 days. 14 days, it really peters out, but 7 days is a great sweet spot to run your promotion. Even a 1 day, you'll get a lot of eyeballs on it. If you're having a sale for something, that's a good move. Talking about boosted posts. If you want to give away to your exclusive, like Inner Circle, they have a boost to my followers. That's pretty cool. So remember, our followers are only seeing us once every 3 posts. So if we boost to our own followers, it's gonna be a chance for all of your faithful, Linen and Rust peeps to really have a chance at that sale before you open the sale to the general public. Now they feel like, ooh, like I get something out of being her follower. I really have value there. And maybe you want to offer tickets to a speaker to only the followers. And now people are going, hey, you gotta follow her because she's giving you, it's that kind of a thing. People are like, why would I boost to the people that already like me? Well, what if you have something to say to them? These are your best customers anyway. So boosting to your followers is actually a great move. And say, follower only, thanks for following, that kind of a thing. It's a great tool that I think gets overlooked. And then of course, if you have them tag or share, now you're just getting all these new followers because there's a reason to be with you. There's some boosted post results. This is what you're going to see. So you're going to be able to see what was my cost per click, cost per engagement, user, all of this. I can see the link clicks, the post engagement, the reach. Reach is going to be their eyeballs saw that post, if that makes sense. And then impressions are going to be the same people that saw it that might have seen it twice. So they had an impression of it, but it's based off the reach. So you can see all of those results. So you can make sure that you're spending the right way. Another move is if it did really well, reboost it. Again, people didn't see it. You might be surprised by that. Reboost something that did well. It did well for a reason. So let's talk about the ROI and the results. I think we only have one person here from the agency side, but this is important for all of us. So you want your website on everything that you do. But you don't want over and over again to be like, StewartTransportation.com, PartyPeopleNashville.com. I mean, it's old hat. So it's for two reasons. This is taking your website or your landing page, right? So if we want to sell this specific pillow, as a user, I do not want to go to your website and find the pillow. Give me the pillow link. I don't want to search. I'm going to abort the mission. All right? So if I'm looking for your blog on Greece, you gotta send me straight to Greece. I don't want to go to Peru. I'm going to be very frustrated with you. Spinning wheel of death. I'm out. So using this URL tool is twofold. First, it's giving you that shortened URL, which is everybody likes it. Second is that it's going to be able to give you trackable results. So now you can figure out the individual post by post. So this is kind of exciting for me. A couple days ago, we spent $140 on client in the month, very low ad spend, and I was able to see which post. We sold 4 items at $45 a piece. So actually for marketing, we were ahead. So I was like super proud to give the results. And I could say to her, hey, you know what posted well is when I posted this thing from CNN Moms. This one, I could drill down right into exactly which post that led them to purchase, which is amazing if you're trying to explain it to clients, or if you just want to know for your personal knowledge, where do they go and how do they get there and what brought them there? So you can pivot your efforts towards what's working and what's not working and drop the duds. It's also giving credibility to your efforts as well. So when you go into this simple, the campaign source is going to be what the post was. So I feature these 2 factory workers at this medical company. This is their website, and then at the bottom I put February Facebook. So I'm keeping myself really organized, so when I want to go back and pull this data, I have it all at my use. If I just put in the website, okay, and you just put in your blog, you're never going to know how people are getting to you and what to amp up and what to stop doing and wasting your time. So it's an extra little layer, but the layer is super useful. Links straight to your Google Analytics, which is phenomenal data.
Jazz and I run into is we don't travel with our team.
No.
We're not with them to like capture the content in real time, and they're too busy to do it. So what I'm wondering, how do you even do you have to go to it? You do. You have to go and.
Because here's the other thing, if you're going to rely on everybody else, right, which is what we run into with some of our clients when we're running your social media campaign, nobody wants to take their picture. No one, ever. Definitely they don't want to take it to you and send it to you. Like, you are the lowest of the low. Like, you're the person that everyone's like, oh, great. So I just, like, there's no shame in my game. Don't worry about what I'm doing. Like, unfortunately for you, you'll have to come up with a system that You either are incentivizing it, or you're gonna go to one show and you are gonna video the ever living out of it. You are just gonna use it over and over, and you're gonna keep that in mind as you take pictures and gather content. To like, okay, I've used you so much, so like, hey, stay by the bus. You know, we just did one day of content gathering. We were there for the full day, and we just took all day video and pictures, all day long. And it will change sort of, you know, how you see your store and how you travel and how, you know what I mean, kind of how you see your warehouse, because you'll be able to do different things with that piece of content. But yeah, Liz, I would go to one event and just go ham for the whole day.
And even bring like changes of clothes for people too.
Oh, totally. We bought
so that it
scarves.
doesn't like look like you were there, but it's like your media day for almost the whole next 6 months.
We have just like we've assigned for some shows, like we have a couple people on our team that are pretty, I guess social media savvy. So we're assigning them like as like the on the ground person to help us with that. It's just been a constant struggle for us to get timely content that's relevant to what's going on right then. So that's why I was.
The other thing is I think it's important to even consider like posting internship positions in the cities that you're going to be in, and have younger high school or college students who are interested in video production or even marketing or social media, and get them to go document as much as they can and send, like, pay them by how many hours of content that they can upload to Dropbox for you or something, and then you have it, or how timely you need it, like even texting you videos in the vertical and in the portrait and the landscape, so that you can use them for different like Instagram
and then maybe
stories
having to
and
be
stuff.
like, hey, just add to your snapshot story like 10 times today, will you? And then going in there and taking screenshots of those snaps. I mean, that's another way to do it. It's less like, hey, video all night. Like, hey, do some cool snaps tonight. That's a lot easier ask maybe for like a younger, person that's on the ground.
Yeah.
Let's think about it. For sure. I think it's
a really big struggle for us.
It is. It's a struggle for everybody, because we all can't be everywhere. I mean, you can't go to every event. The other thing that is helpful too is sometimes incentivizing it. Like, I know that the woman that works with the mobile cards, she's having all the internal people follow and like and do, and like having all of her team starting like in-house, and she's giving away like silly things and kind of telling, and then she's gonna have a meeting where we were gonna come in and tell them, look, it's really important for you guys to engage with the users and for you to share and like, and I mean, you guys are us, so come on, like, get on board with social media because it's selling these. So, help us out.
Like connecting the dots for them.
And sort of, and maybe making something fun out of it, where you're having a contest now, where the first 5 people to submit 5 pictures or videos are going to be entered to win, the $200 hotel upgrade or whatever, something that you may already have. This is a list of resources: Boomerang, Pexels, Fonto. Fonto, if you haven't used it, is basically, you like this. That is Canva on your phone. Canva on your phone. So if you're on Instagram and you don't want to like go find it from Pinterest or wherever you're taking stuff, it's mobile only. And you can just, it overlays your pictures, really beautiful quality stuff, I think. That's what Paul really likes. So Fonto's for your phone, Canva is for your desktop, and Canva is life, it is everything. Medium, we've talked about, the blogging platform, so go start an account, it's $3.99, my favorite price. Facebook Audience Insights, Bailey talked to you about that. Make sure, do a deep dive in that. See what's going on, who's liking, who is my audience already, and make sure that you're talking to them, not just who you think you should be talking to. Buffer and Hootsuite, we don't love them, but they work. In a pinch, if that's something that you need, is better than nothing. Pinterest, I'm sure all of you are familiar with Pinterest. Steal. Especially memes and infographics are really fun off of Pinterest. GIF Maker, we talked about that. Try a GIF, you'll be really surprised. Again, copy, go to the end, and then out everything. Like reverse engineer that one. And then this is the dev tools. This is it, you'll have this, use it. Don't just put your website, because it is tracking to nothing. Research and understand your audience. I am going to embarrass you here, but this is a beautiful picture. And I think that if you do, and if you feature other folks, they're going to be so much more engaged. I just totally jacked her picture off Facebook, and then I put that over it. I put that over it. Now, and everybody isn't it a beautiful picture?
Yeah.
I know. I thought so too. So I was like, man, I could put this now as, you know, if I'm a party planning person, she's gonna talk about maybe her story and how she was inspired by another female who is going for it. Valerie's gonna take, I'll just brag on you, it's so cool. She's gonna be taking a year and going like traveling the world, so it's pretty cool. Now, not only are you, now what you want her to do is share this on a retweet, like reshare situation without, while you are still in it. Does that make sense? Without backing you out of it and copy and pasting it and just her just snarking it. You want her just to go, and then now she is engaged that way. But going in and finding these folks and then making them, having that feel good Liz moment, Liz is liking me probably, Liz might tell somebody else, and that's the point. Let's talk about how to get unstuck, because you're so used to what you have that this is the problem for everyone. And we'll come up with ideas and like, oh my God, that's so great, such a great idea. I don't want to talk about Kevin Hart there, but anyway, the point is that the best thing to do sometimes is just have this conversation with somebody else. And try, you know, somebody that's kind of out there and have, you know, like me. Give people a shout out, stalk them, we talked about that. I probably should not say stalk, but everything cannot be on brand, so back out of that. You don't need to put your logo and everything, because right now on Facebook, when we see that logo, what are we thinking?
Selling.
You're selling. I don't want it anymore. I'm turned off by it, in fact, the logo. It has the reverse effect. If you went to marketing school, it's the opposite now. So you need to feel so much more native on these platforms. And most people have not figured that out. Screenshot your website. I mean, there's beautiful parts of your website, interesting parts. Go ahead and just take a screenshot and repost that, or at least copy and paste from it. There's easier ways to schedule these posts to do this without feeling like, oh my gosh, this is gonna take me 6 hours. Do a give every month and just reuse it. Don't maybe try and make it one on Sunday night to post all week, you know, a new something. You've got stuff there in front of you, try to find it and use it. Influencers are a good way, that could be a whole different thing. Start thinking about who you want to look like and do what they're doing. Talk to them, DM them. That's a really good way to get in with some of these other folks. Finding a follower and thanking them, of course we talked about that. And then just document. Don't necessarily feel like you're constantly having to create. In the medical field, you got like beautiful moments, I'm sure. And if you could just, as they are walking out, be like, hey, really quick, can I just hear about your experience? It's for a project I'm doing, and at the end, then you have them sign away. Because if you say, it's on the website, it's not happening. But if you say, hey, or you know they're shy, feel out the moment, just audio. Record it and just have a chat with them, then do some pull quotes. You know, you got the big graphic and the pull quote, that's like a special moment. It's involving a customer. What's your Facebook? Oh, I'm gonna tag you in this. Oh, thank you so much for your time, really appreciate it. And then she's like, oh, got the fuzzy feeling, she might review you, you know, and it just snowballs in that direction. So use what you have. We think that we have to I think we're looking at so many other things and it's crowding our mind. Like you're looking at beautiful National Geographic and all these other things. Stay in your lane. You've got some good stuff in there.
One is creating a podcast.
Yeah.
Just to talk to people about what they do, what their story is, and then you have one podcast, you have at least a dozen posts off of that, and one long form blog or multiple long form blogs.
That's how we met Fallon. I was
Relationship
at an event with her and I said, hey, my husband does this podcast and you do social media law. That'd be cool. If you got on the podcast together. And then we've used and helped each other out in lots of different ways. And it was from kind of starting out with the content in mind, and then that relationship it all just snowballs.
So free tool for that.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have this in here.
No, we don't.
Anchor.fm. It's a app. So in the App Store, go to just search Anchor, and then on the web, go to Anchor.fm. And it is my favorite app of all time, because if Anchor existed in 2006, I would have done nothing but record my conversations with my friends about fantasy football and turn them into podcasts. You can record you can record phone conversations with multiple people.
I would never want to hear what I had to say in 2000.
I would have had, I don't know how many listeners it would have had, but that's how I would have spent all my time. It is the most fun app I've ever used, and it's like free. It's free like audio recording and editing right there in the app, and then you can also drag. So if you do like this whole video could end up being a podcast in theory, because you can add like an intro and then interludes and an outro to it, and you can drag the whole MP4 file into the web browser on Anchor, and then that can become your podcast. So it'll go live for 24 hours, then you can create an episode, and when you create an episode, it'll syndicate it to all the podcast apps native on phones, and Spotify, iTunes, basically anywhere you can, Audible, anywhere you would listen to.
And so if you're not a
podcast.
writer or a blogger, take pieces out of that and just transcribe it almost into a blog, like kind of rewrite it a little bit, turn it into a blog. That way you're still blogging for SEO purposes and sending people to your website, and you've got a separate piece of content, and you didn't feel like the pressure to create. It's just sort of like, hey, why do you order from us for your, tape needs versus somebody else? What are we able to provide on a customer service level? And then, maybe that person goes off for a minute, and that's fantastic. That's all you would need to be able to get what you need from there. Just kind of a recap, Facebook cares about the user and not you. The more that you realize that you don't matter on Facebook and that you need to create that interaction, the better traction, and then of course the better that you're gonna have people landing back to your site because they're seeing your content. Think like a user and a marketer. I think the user is what you need to have in your mind at all times. If you're gonna be on that platform, then you again need to be on that platform in the way that it was intended to be used, not in your mind, which is, sell. So that's the number one reason people are unfollowing you. Again, if nobody interacts with you, no one will see your stuff. So go off brand and have no fear in doing so.
I think the reason why we wanted this class to be so focused around content is because there's so many different things you can do technically for SEO, and we can get into that as well if anyone has any questions. But we wanted the class to be focused around content because that's how you really go to what's next. You can do a set of tasks on a website one time and then learn how to do those tasks in the source code for future content updates. But then after that, unless Google changes something significantly, it's really just on your content and on your ability to build popularity online. So everything around social media and building an audience is going to help your SEO because, like I said, by the time you do all the proper setup technically, then it's about getting popularity, traffic, and then you move up the rankings. So but on the local side, we'll jump into that, and that's kind of like its own separate set of tasks that also help with local SEO.
Talk through as well, I think it's really, I wish I had a slide on it, but you can speak to it. Organic search versus social for just a regular client, or just an average client. What are the numbers that you see usually?
In Google Analytics, about 50 to 60% of web traffic comes from a channel called organic search. So that would be people searching for brands on the search engines. 95% of that is Google. So Bing and Yahoo make up the other 5% total. So it really is Google. The reality though is if you dig into the keywords, about 80% of the keywords are branded. So they already know the business's name. There's also a channel called direct, and direct is when you type any URL into the address bar. So if you think about the data, what that really means is that organic search channel and direct combined make up about 75% of all web traffic, and that's people already know your brand. They're already familiar with you. Social media makes up in 2017, social media made up 15% of web traffic, which was up 9% from the previous year. So while 15% doesn't seem like a huge number, it actually represents like the largest referral source to websites that doesn't indicate that that users already know what the brand is. So as it relates to really like trying to go out and get net new eyeballs on your brand, it's really on social media more than people think it is. People think it's on SEO and Google search, but it's really more on social media than what people think it is based on the data. You probably know tools like Moz and other similar tools like SEMrush. They're all tracking the amount of mentions as well as backlinks from other social media channels. And the reason why they do that is because, so Google wants to serve you the most relevant content to the searcher. And so how does a computer algorithm monitor that? And one way is, there's many ways, but one way is on social media, how many people are mentioning or linking back to a domain name that isn't that brand, right? There's an indicator that the biggest SEO companies in the world are basically telling you through their data, you need to be on social media in order to have good SEO.
Like, what is your other idea? Like, do you want to put a billboard up? Like, what's the other plan? Because social media is like the answer. I mean, that's the only thing that we're all on constantly. I mean, we're not even watching Netflix anymore. Like, I mean, stuff is just so rapidly dying, and this is the only thing that's staying tried and true. So that's kind of the other thing, is if you're not going to do social media, we've had people push back, you know, oh gosh, social media, you know, because our brand is so protected, and it's like, okay, well then what is the plan? What else is the, what's your other choice?
If you look at, when we look at web data, like, so let's take that company that, or type of people that Kate's talking about, let's look at their Google Analytics. Their traffic's still coming from Facebook. So what that says is, even though they're not posting on Facebook, other people are posting about them. And so there really is no way to control your message. I think everybody's probably bought into that now. Take a brand that's getting traffic from Facebook or even Twitter and LinkedIn show up, and they're never posting, they barely even have a profile optimized. If that brand takes that interest that's out there and actually starts posting one time a week and then ramping up to one time a day, and even 2 to 5, 5 times a day is a lot, but even 2 to 5 times a day, their web traffic skyrockets, and it's quality web traffic. So sounds like you're experiencing some of that with some of your work, so that's awesome.
Cupcake.
Mignon, it's the cupcake collection.
The cupcake collection.
Mhm.
She is fire on social media.
Yeah.
16-year-old runs her.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're talking like, I mean, hundreds of thousands of followers. I mean, she is blown up. She has 17, like her niece does it, and she just kills it. Another idea would be maybe take it off of your plate. You know you want to do it, take it off of your plate and have somebody else help you with it, sending you stuff, and then you're the one that ultimately will curate those, put them in the post, and then run your URL, because you don't necessarily want to do all that. They don't have that you have, but they might have the other piece that you're able to do. Just something else, just to maybe think about others that might be within your, you know, especially that younger demographic. She's killed it with it, and I think she started when she was 15, so now she's like 18. It's crazy. That was a great book. So let's talk about a little bit about local SEO. SEO meaning that your directory listings are all in sync. Your Google My Business verification is on point, and the review generation strategy.
Local business directory listings it's this concept that the internet's been around for like 25-ish years, and in that history, if you think about back, like when I think about back to like 2005, and at that time I was managing more on the client side of marketing and like buying media, and so I would get hit up all the time by this new business directory site that had started that was like a different version of yellowpages.com that had created a listing for me, and I now needed to pay them $50 a month to make sure that right? So we all are familiar with that. So picture the tens of thousands of those that have been created that are still living out there. They all have inaccurate business information, basically. So they sort of look like this. So it's kind of like asking 10 random people where to find a local business, and you get 10 different answers. That's, if you've Googled any kind of local business at all, you may have noticed, even your own business, multiple listings that each have different information or different variations of the same information. It's basically because not only has all of those types of directory sites been built up over the years, but Google has actually changed their own business directory several times, from Google Places to Google Plus Business, back to Google Places to now it's Google My Business. In order to get like this this type of situation where you're consistent across the board with your accurate information, there's basically two main overall tasks that you have to do. The most important one is verifying your Google My Business page. And so that's your local business listing with Google. So Brian, you might already be pretty familiar with this, and some of you guys might already be familiar, but like I know Samantha works with the urgent care location in Gallatin. And so that would be a good example. So to verify their page, for example, which it may already be verified, is to basically conduct a search on Google and then find the local business listing, which will look like this. It'll look like this over here. So it has a huge amount of real estate on the search engine results pages if you're searching on desktop. If you're on the if you're on the map screen, you can actually click in through the listing, which you can get to from here as well. And then on the maps, you'll see like this little link that says, "Is this your business?" basically. So you can follow that all the way through the process, and Google changes it all the time. So it could be different tomorrow than it is today. But you can follow that through the process and basically request either a postcard gets sent to the physical address that will have a PIN code on it, or you can request a phone call on the spot. But it has to be to the actual physical phone number of the business. And so Google will call you or send you a postcard with the PIN code on it. You enter it into that screen that you would have seen after clicking that button and requesting the PIN code. And once you do that, your listing becomes verified. Then you can make sure that all the information on it is correct. You can actually it's connected through pretty much all things Google. So it's connected through your Google account that you logged in with to get there in the first place. It's connected with your Google Plus page, which Google wants to still keep relevant. So if you make posts to your Google Plus page that's associated with that business listing, it optimizes that listing and it can help you show up. So in this search, for example, that I did here, I searched Spring Hill Smiles. The reason why that came up is because that's the name of the local business listing. But if this business posts often and optimizes that listing and verifies it and fills it all out correctly, in theory, over time, this will show for things like Spring Hill Dentist or Spring Hill Pediatric Dentistry, which is what we talked about earlier, what we really want, like businesses really want to be showing more for those non-branded keywords. So Google has placed this huge amount of emphasis on the local business listing. And that's the Google business listing that's important, mainly because it just gets so much real estate. The other thing that you guys are probably familiar with is when you make a search for Spring Hill Dentist or Spring Hill Insurance Company, you see that like basically the map comes up first. So even if you're optimizing your website for all these keywords, your website listing's coming up below the map. So what I just talked about with the local business listing is something that can get you on the map, which in theory in your local area is easier to do than optimizing all these pages on your website and creating content all the time to try to get to the organic listing, which is now below that. Now I put this screenshot in here because you can also buy the ad to get above the map. And in the third class, we talk about the best way to do that, which is Google AdWords. There's a bunch of different products within Google AdWords. So in the third class, we talk more about that. And then the other way, I wanted to spend more time on Google. The other way where we talked about all of the thousands of business directories, like how do you go through those, right? Well, there's this API, great company that's based out of New York called Yext, Y-E-X-T. They have an API where they've partnered with all of these tens of thousands of business directories, including some that you're probably already familiar with, like Apple, Bing, Facebook, Foursquare, Snapchat. All of these companies have local business information in them, in the web somewhere, in the profile. And so the Yext API will allow you to essentially, I think for like a one local business, it's like around $20 a month for like one listing. And so they have different partnerships. We have a partnership with them at the agency level. So we have like several hundred listings that we send through. And you guys at Dev Digital might do something similar where you could be like an agency partner. And then that way, if you have a client that has like 100 locations, you get a discount off of, and then your client gets a break too. because otherwise they would have to pay way more and they get your rate. So it's kind of a win-win, and it's very smart because you type in the business information one time per physical location, and in real time the API updates it. So that's all you have to do. And then you get the reports on all of that. So everybody, if I'm a local business owner, I'm like, yeah, right? But then you can show, as the SEO person, you can show that business owner, well, here's the reports, and here's actually all the listings where it's being cleaned up on all these websites. And they can go there and verify a few of them and feel good about it. The reason why that's important for any business, when I say local business, I mean like, the local urgent care, or the local dentist, or the local pizza place, or like that physical location that you would walk into. But then there's brands. So for brands, it's important too, because even like Stewart Transportation, where you might not have people walking in, it's important to clean this up as well, because Google gets its SEO information from all the local business directories. So a minute ago I talked about like how does an algorithm sort of validate popularity or validate like business legitimacy and stuff like that. One way they do it is like if your local business directory listings are all clean and up to date, like they all have the same phone number and it's accurate, address and it's accurate and all of that, then your overall SEO rankings will rise as well. So it's like mostly important for local businesses, but don't ignore it if you're a brand or you don't have a storefront locally, because it will help with your organic search to have them all clean. It's detrimental if they're inaccurate. And I think to some extent, so like if you've moved, you want to do that Google verification that I talked about, because chances are you might have a different phone number, but you definitely have a different physical address. Review generation, Yext, I wanted to kind of throw this in there because along the same lines of all things Google business listing is also the reviews. And so I just want to validate, like if anyone's ever heard that reviews are good, like for SEO, it's true. Obviously positive reviews are better for SEO than negative reviews, but we know from experience and from the data that the only real way to generate any kind of positive reviews is to be proactive, is to really be proactive in that. And so one way to do that is kind of boots on the ground, where like the example I always use is like a local plumbing company actually brings an iPad with them, and they have all their technicians bring an iPad with them and ask the customer like if they're comfortable reviewing right there on the spot, and that like skyrockets local SEO. So a lot of times it's not necessarily, I mean the back end stuff that the tech geeks like me are doing is helping, but if you can be proactive even with your point of sale location, or where you're actually interacting with your customers and getting them to review you on the spot, that's great. This is kind of multi-layered, because that person from the plumbing company could be doing it on Google, that's great. What would be better is if they're doing it on something like Yext, because they could do it on Yext in the same way, where the user just basically fills out sort of a form that looks like name, email, star rating, and comments. But if they did it in Yext, they'd be able to also pick all of these other review sites that it would immediately go to. Instead of just Google, it's going to go to all of them that they pick. And then you can also, through Yext, do a customer list. So if you've missed, or you feel like you've missed opportunities to get all these reviews, obviously one thing, probably most of us in this room could honestly just like send one-to-one emails. And that's going to be like a way of, I already have a relationship with this person. If I ask them to review me, surely they're going to do it at some point, and it'll be genuine. 5 years worth of customers that have come in and purchased stuff in your store, and you're not going to send one-to-one emails. Maybe the list's like 1,000 people. You could use Yext to upload that list. It can be phone numbers and/or emails, and it can do like an SMS text version as well as an email version of that form. And then you set, I want it to go to all of these review sites, or just Google, or all 500 of them or whatever. And then the review will immediately go live. Now, so that's amazing for SEO. Obviously, there's going to be some negative reviews. The positives are only going to outweigh the negatives if you're proactive with this approach. And so that's what we recommend.
And a lot of people will ask, like, oh, I have a negative review, how do I get rid of it? You can't, unless it was just malicious and there was real, like, and it wasn't necessarily deserved. You're going to have to just bury it. So unless you're proactive on the front end and you're playing offense, you're gonna end up in a situation where like our customer has a 1 star, you know, now we're having to go in and bury the 1 star with 5s. So just having that kind of already like the arsenal build up will just be a smart way, just in case you do get somebody that's, you know, a little disgruntled, and that's the only way you can do that though.